Welcome to the Empowering Choices podcast. My name is Joshua.
I'm Lucas.
I'm Eric.
Lucas and Eric are licensed professional counselors, and today we are talking about what appears to be a fact, that money grows on trees.
Appears to be a fact. So if you've been kind of listening to our podcasts in order, we're kind of in this little subsection of things that Eric found. That's things that Eric found on the internet.
Internet findings.
But things that parents regretted as it regarded the raising of their children. And yeah, well, it's not exactly that money grows on trees, but the sub point that you listed here was that these parents did not educate their children about money.
Yes.
So maybe their child grew up believing that money grew on trees.
Well, they didn't. I mean, because it's very normal for kids to just think that, money is just there. Right. You have it. I mean, I remember thinking that my parents had money. They had checks. You just write a check and you get whatever you want.
Man, you might have to educate our audience on what checks are.
Well, I'm assuming that a lot of our audience still knows what checks are, but little pieces of paper that you can write an amount on and who it's to, and then you sign your name and
those things.
Boom. Yeah.
Right. I make that joke because when I went and bought a car, like they had to ask, like, do you have personal checks at home? Because they said the amount of people who don't is ever increasing.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is ever increasing. And I mean, now it's more the debit card or the credit card.
Yeah.
So if you have plastic, kids are going to believe you have money. It's just
Right.
it.
Yep.
Get one of those cards. You got all the money you want.
One of the stories that I remember one of my friends telling me was that their child, it was, I think, the first purchase that this child was going to make at a store with the money from their piggy bank. Right. So they took the money out of the piggy bank and they had it in whatever, a jar. And then they had like the action figure that they wanted to buy. And so they have the action figure go through the register, and they boop their thing. And then it's like, okay, well, give me the money, to the cash register. So the kid hands over the money, and the cashier gives the kid the toy, and the kid goes, wait, but I wanted my money back. I still want, why did my money have to leave?
Right.
And the mom's like, me too, kid.
Yeah.
Me too.
That's how it works.
Why can't I have it for free? Why can't I have it and my money at the same time?
Well, it's like, I wanted my money, and the money is the thing, but I wanted my money. Like, I still want that. Yeah.
I worked
learning.
with someone at county when I was there, and she had a disability. And one of the things is that her mom would always keep like several $100s in her wallet so that she could purchase whatever she wanted. And
so the mother of this client would make sure that the client had several $100s.
Her daughter had money.
Just checking.
Which was, exactly.
You want that person?
Yeah, I
right?
want that in my life.
Right. Well, and the problem is that the person kept getting things not through purchasing them. So she would steal them.
I was going to say, wait a second. How does that? Oh,
Okay.
Yeah. And so the mom is like, why is she doing this? And as I further investigated, she didn't want the money to go away. She didn't understand that her mom would replace the money because she had a huge bank account that had money in it, and she would just put it in. But she had more of a child's mind, so she didn't understand. So she didn't want it.
She was a level up from that one child of knowing, like, well, if I give the money, then they give me a thing, but then my money is gone, and I don't want that.
And I don't want that.
Without a conception of the bigger picture of how money works.
How money works, And so that's what these parents were saying is we didn't help our kids understand, how does money work in life?
It's just one of those things of we want to encourage parents to raise responsible adults, and part of responsible adulting is money. And this is just one of the so many things, right? But also important.
Yeah.
You have a story here about someone who thought that as long as he had checks, he had money.
There's actually been a couple of adults that I have known, and their wives have kind of taken away the checkbook because as long as they had checks, they had money. That
was the
just
belief
their
about
concept, and they still had a lot of checks left. So what's the problem? And she's like, well, the problem is there's no money in the bank.
Right.
And now we're going negative.
Right. This is an IOU that interfaces with the bank account, and you have to know how the bank account works.
Yes, exactly. I remember having a paper route when I was a kid, and one time a check bounced, and I had to
That you had been given?
that I'd been given by a customer, and I had to go to the customer's house, and I'm trying to explain that this check came back, and I'm a little embarrassed to go to the house because I know that this is a really nice house.
Oh, funny.
And yes, and the guy and his wife who own it, he's a railroad engineer. And so there's a lot of money that comes into this house. And
So why did this check bounce?
yeah, she's like, well, there's no way that it bounced. And I said, but here it is.
Right. Here's the
Yeah.
information
Yeah.
from the
Right.
bank.
And she's looking at it and she's going, she actually said, we have an agreement with the bank that we can just spend and they cover it because they know things are coming in. So and I'm like, I've never heard of this before, but it makes sense.
Right.
The bank just says, okay, you get that money. And so she went and got her husband, and her husband is like, why are we even talking about this? Just put the check back in. And, and I'm saying, they said I can't go back in. And
I
he's
need
like,
something else.
yeah, he's like,
is
this
no-go.
doesn't even make sense. So they said, can you come back in a day or two? I came back in a day or two. She explained that they called the bank. They're like, what's going on? And they're like, well, we do have an agreement with you, but you had so much money coming in that it's beyond our agreement.
So much money
Money
that
going.
you were
That
paying
you were
out.
paying out, that
That
you
hadn't
were
come
writing
in.
checks for, that you were spending, that it goes beyond our agreement. And so, I mean, that was kind of one of my first lessons in
Money's
there's
not
actually
unlimited.
something attached to this.
Yeah.
It's like, I understand that you should have money based on their lifestyle.
Right.
And yet.
Right. I mean, he made a great amount of money at that time and in that day.
And yet.
He just, did what some of the movie stars do, had a great amount of spending sprees.
Was it the story? Was it Nicolas Cage you were telling me about, whose accountant fired him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I can't help you anymore, Nick, after you bought the 6th yacht.
Yep. Yep. Well, because somewhere in there he's like, at about yacht 5, I told you were running out of money.
Yeah.
And now here we are, and it was like, I think it was 7th or 8th yacht. But
Sure. I mean,
you know,
if you
can-
have more yachts than you have fingers on one hand, I don't know what to tell you.
and that's one of those pieces that, when you have a lot of money coming in and you're able to just, spend as you please,
You can still run out of money,
you
though.
can run out of money.
Because it turns out, I mean, like, can you imagine the amount of sink on a bank account a yacht would be?
It,
You know, I mean, if you buy it outright, the purchase price, but then I hear you have to staff them.
well, there's a good 70% of NBA players that go bankrupt about 5 years after retirement.
After the money stops coming in.
Right. And
Right.
it's due to the lavished spending. And there have been a fair amount of NBA players who have said, no, we have to help this. We have to help the new players coming in because you're getting millions of dollars. You're getting fancy things. You suddenly have all this capability to be able to do these different things that you never could have done before. And there's no self-control.
And it's still not unlimited, though.
and it's
Because you can
not
still
unlimited.
go bankrupt.
Yep.
So let's come back to like kids, right?
Mhm.
You have I don't know, I got a 4-year-old in my house, and we talk about money at least some. Like, what are the things that you should do to keep your child from becoming the Nicolas Cage buying his 6th yacht?
Well, see, I like your example with the piggy bank. So if you have the ability, or you can come up with an idea to where kids are gaining money, through chores, through gifts, through however that is, and they can physically put it in their hands and they can physically store it up. And then you're helping them to be able to count it, and you're helping them to see, what does this mean? You have this object,
Yeah.
what it has value, and why does it have value? And then how does it have value within society? And how do you get more of it?
So for so like a child who is particularly a concrete thinker at the lower end of the age ranges, physical concrete, like cash in front of them.
Well, what's funny is that economists were saying in the 90s, when the debit cards and things were really coming in, they said, listen, if you want to control impulse spending as an adult, spend more cold, hard cash.
A physical object that leaves your wallet.
Object that leaves your hand.
Yep.
And people are like, why would you have us do that? And they said, because you're seeing it and you're feeling it, and then you're thinking about how much work did it take to get that.
Yep.
And it brings in more layers, and that helps to offset the impulse.
Sure. Well, I mean, there's like that guy, Dave Ramsey, who's kind of a financial guru dude, and he has his envelope system. And he's like, have it in cash, and like this envelope is for whatever discretionary spending, and there's 100 physical green dollars in there, and then when they're gone, they're gone.
It's interesting. You said he has his envelope system. I remember my parents doing the envelope system.
And I don't know where it comes from. It may not have originated with him, but
It didn't. It was well before him.
Sure.
It's a great system, and Larry Burkett is the one that I heard from about the spending of the cash. He since died, I think, in early 2000s. But what I like, though, is that those tools are out there, and those guys are looking at them. You can do that same thing. The guy who wrote, now somebody with the computer might need to help me here. The guy who wrote the book, Good Dad, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah,
I
heard you mention it
get that wrong.
Good Dad,
right.
Green Dad.
Yep.
Yeah.
He created a game for the family that helps with money management, money understanding, money budgeting. It's actually, he uses it with adults when he's trying to teach them how to be able to look at money, both right now and then long-term goals, and then moving forward with, being able to invest.
And it's just a reskinned version of Monopoly.
I don't think, it's kind of on that, but it's different.
I'm just thinking of a game that has like money.
Yeah, but it's, from what I understand, it's a very effective game that helps kids, learn about money.
People.
So
you were also saying that like help kids understand that like money isn't an infinite thing. It has to go away in exchange for like whatever it is. You have an action figure, and if you want the action figure, you have to lose so much of this stuff you have.
Sure.
And then there was also the teach them what it takes for money to come in. Right? For them money to come into their piggy bank.
Exactly.
And so that would be things like, well, you said sometimes people get it for birthdays. Right? So that's like a good, understanding. But then probably like chores, right?
Chores are a great example. We talk about that in the parenting manual. The super nanny, Jo, she used to help families set up kind of token economies in the house, and so you're getting a certain type of currency in the house for doing the different chores. May look like stickers.
Yep.
May look like printed off dollars, that are localized to your family. It can be any number of things, but you do things, you earn those, you get a certain amount of time on the electronics by paying those things to gain that time.
Sure. Well, you're teaching economics through the use of whatever, marbles. I wonder if you could just make it like, I don't know, like, it's like you literally have to pay me $1 to like get another 30 minutes on the Xbox. But that means that you paid the kid $1 for like doing the dishes.
Exactly.
And you make it less of a token economy and more of just a real economy.
Either way that you do it, it is there. One of the teachers, a teacher that I worked for, he saw his son really enjoying TV, and he's like, this is going to go bad. He's just spending all his time watching TV. And so at that time, he went down to the electric company to see if they had any of the old spin dials for the electricity that were on houses, like timers. And
so you could like watch the electricity go by?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so they gave him one. He explained what he wanted to do. They went, that's a great idea. Let us know how this works. He took it home and he wired it into the TV.
Because he had the electrical knowledge to don't do this at home unless you have an electrical degree, please.
And so he wired it into the TV, put it on the wall right above the TV. And he said, listen, you can watch as much TV as you want, but every day when I leave for work, I'm going to write down where the numbers are at.
Because it usually tracks like kilowatts of electricity or something.
And then when I come home, I'm going to write down where it's at then, because none of the rest of the family really watched TV. And he said, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you help pay for the electricity out of the use of that you're enjoying it, and it can just come out of your allowance.
Out of your allowance. Okay. So he had a system in place in his family already whereby
Yes.
this kid earned money.
Yes. So
Or
he
was
earned
given
money, and then at the end of the month, he would just give him what that equaled that he had to pay him back. He said, my son loved money so much that once he understood what it was costing
How this
him,
was working.
Yeah.
he was almost done watching TV.
Oh, he almost just...
Yeah, he just went off into the rest of the world to do other things because
other
that was
things to
not
do.
what he wanted.
It's not where he wanted his
spent
money
on.
to go.
Yep.
That's
You
called budgeting, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, and those are the pieces that you're looking to help your kids understand is how do I help you value money and then be able to understand where you want to send that money.
Well,
So, oh, go ahead. I was just going to say, should kids ever just be given flat out, just given an allowance with no questions asked? I know like some will set up more of a, here's your allowance as long as you do your this and that. But then I also know other people, like when I was a kid, their parents were like, yeah, you just get X amount a week just for existing. And I always thought, that's cool.
Josh, you know us well enough. What are we about to tell you?
Probably going to say that that's not a good idea.
You know,
No, that wasn't what I was going to tell you at all.
Yeah.
You're going to say it depends on the situation.
There
and
we
the kid.
go.
But to me, it seems like if you just have a money source, because no one really, you don't get that in life. I don't just have a random person.
I mean, there's some politicians, Josh.
True.
What is that?
Okay.
Like unearned income,
Right.
universal basic
yes.
income, right?
Yes.
So anyway, we're not
it's
going to get
a
into that.
fancy name for socialism.
I'm not
Yeah.
going to get into that either.
But yeah, to me, it just seems like, as I'm thinking, like, I don't want to set up for my son just the idea, I'm going to give you $20 every
You
week just for
just
existing.
answered what's going to work well for your family, Josh.
I'm going to like have some parameters in place.
Well, because I mean, like the answer that I'm going to give you is like what's going to work well for your family, right? And
Yeah.
you are expressing that ain't never going to fly. And if you were just giving your son quote unearned
Yeah.
money, you would go nuts.
So
don't do that.
Would you say that there are some families that it would work just to say, here, kids, here's $20 a week for existing?
Well, the thing that I would think is if you had a system whereby your kid got whatever, $20 a week, if you also do the other things that we generally suggest for parenting, like this kid's probably doing chores and helping out around the house and not being,
Right.
it wouldn't be just for existing. It'd be like, if you're generally following the family rules, then yeah, you get $20 as long as you're kind of like meeting basic expectations.
Yeah.
Rather than, I think there is probably a better value to connecting like action to dollars.
Right.
But,
How
again,
do you ever get beyond, I should just have money because I should just have money?
right.
If you don't, I mean, I knew one boy that I worked with, and he was close. I think he was 18, maybe a little over.
Mm-hmm.
He was going to write the Social Security Department a letter, and he was going to propose that they give him a raise in the Social Security money that he gets every month.
Okay, so he had Social
He
Security.
had
Got
money
it.
coming into him. You're not doing anything for that money. It's given to you, boom, because you have needs that we see you're not going to be able to work in society.
Right. Like disability.
But he thought, I need a raise. And
Really creative.
Yeah, right. And it's above the standard of living raises that, they give every year. He really wanted a raise. And so when I said, why do you think that they're going to give you a raise? And he said, because they like me. I'm like, well,
do you
have
know
you
that?
ever met them? He goes, no, I've never met them. Then how do you know they like you? He said, because they give me money.
Okay.
They give me money. That means they like me. That means I can ask them to give me more money. And because they like me, they'll give me more money.
So kind of a magical thinking view of the
It's
world.
a very magical thinking view. I have seen families that they just gave them money. One of the reasons why Lionel Richie claimed that he couldn't get control of his daughter in her teenage years is because, if he took away her credit cards, well, her friends had credit cards. So she'd just get theirs. They just help each other out with that. But that's the thing is that why did she have a credit card?
Mm-hmm.
What was she doing for the credit card?
Mm-hmm.
I just saw a thing the other day on Shaq where he took his oldest son to a car dealership and said, pick out the car that you want. And so he came out and he had the paperwork for a Mercedes-Benz. And Shaq said, he laughed. He goes, yeah, that's what I could pay for, but you don't have any money. You haven't worked for this. He goes, I'm the one who's rich. And he went on to say, I want my kids to be able to understand how to make things and earn things for themselves. Gordon Ramsay, he doesn't pay for a bunch of stuff for his kids, even right down to their cell phones. He's taught them how to work. He's taught them how to earn, and they pay for all of their own things in a majority of different ways, because he's trying to teach them the value of money, how to earn it, how to have it, how to save it, how to manage it, which are none of the things that he was taught when he was growing up, And so generally speaking, just giving money for no reason whatsoever, here you go, there it is. If it's not in any way tied to how things are going, kind of like what you mentioned, Lucas, or certain chores. Because, you're gonna have a kid, he's gonna have chores, he's gonna do things, he's gonna earn his money, and then he's gonna have something come up, and he's gonna go, oh my gosh, if I had another $25, now your relationship with your child, whether or not it's a good time to be able to, or a good moment to be able to just, give them that extra money because they are a part of the family. Maybe they have been working really hard and they've taken care of a lot of things, and there's an opportunity to go with a buddy to the movies, and you're like, I want them to have that. And then you might provide that, but it's more of an exception than the rule. There are other families that go, hey man, did you think about that? That, here's the opportunity where things in life will happen.
Yeah.
And so you got to plan for that, and so, man, that sucks.
I may say, yes, you can have 50. You'll owe me 75.
You give your kid a loan?
Interest and loans.
Man.
So sure.
We'll have to get into advanced banking concepts with your children at a later podcast.
Right.
Exactly.
There was a family that I knew, and they didn't give money. When their child came to them and said, hey, I want this video game, then they would come up with what are the chores that would equal the cost of the video game. And so they would line that up, and then the child would go out and do those chores, and then they would take them and buy them that video game.
Yeah, yeah. And I was kind of a
different
weird
approach.
child, but as a child, that was how I started approaching things to my parents. I would be like, I want this thing. I have made a list of all the possible ways we could
pre-proposing
get
how I
there.
could pay for
so
it. Right.
could I clean windows, and could I do this, and maybe we could call grandma and have me do whatever, because I'm trying to get $46.75. And
because you knew you needed $46.75,
Right.
there had to have been some groundwork before that from your parents to even get you to that point.
right, because I knew that they weren't just going to give it to me, and so I needed a plan to say, hey, could we do this? And sometimes they may say something like, well, yeah, you're $20 short, but since you did good on your grades or whatever, and then it's like,
And you're attaching it in there.
right.
One of my first businesses was like in first, second grade, and I made pet rocks.
Nice.
Right? It was awesome.
That's a good business.
And people liked them, and they bought them for like 25 cents, 50 cents, 75 cents. And I'm like, man, this is awesome, because, the coins are coming in, and then suddenly the sales dried up. And I'm like, what happened? And I'm like, oh, everybody in here has a pet rock on their desk. I have sold to everyone.
Flooded the market.
Because I needed a marketing team to be able to get to the other grades, because they wouldn't let me just go down and.
Right. Oh, this was at school.
This was at school.
Nice.
Yeah, and I couldn't just go down to the other classrooms and market my pet rocks, which. Some of the kids took them out to recess, and then other kids came and said, hey, how do we buy one of those?
Sure, right.
So
At lunchtime,
kind
man.
of a marketing thing that happened. But, being able to know how to be able to do that and what to do to have the things you want in life is what these parents were saying, hey, we regret not teaching. And I'm wondering how many of them have kids coming back going, I need new tires on the car.
Sure, right. Make it happen.
Make it happen. I've seen that happen with some adult children in families.
Yeah, well, I think it's definitely an interesting topic. It's something I've spent a lot of time thinking about, because I would like to. I hope my son can, be smarter than his dad. But then you gotta do stuff to make that happen. So I think that's very helpful. We have more things about this and the chores and the things like we talked about in our parenting manual. And we'd love for you to take time, if you can, just to leave a comment, give us a thumbs up, give us a rating, whatever system you're listening or watching on. We'd really appreciate that. And check out our website at empoweringchoices.community, and we'll see you on the next episode.
You remembered to put the money tree seeds in the store on the website, right, Josh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we got those in
go,
there.
go find them.
Go check it out.